Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can see me and hear me okay. Welcome to AdRoll Live. We go live every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time to bring you a whole host of conversation, expertise, and also chat with founders, CEOs, and marketers working across amazing direct-to-consumer companies. Hopefully, like I said, you can see and hear me okay. We have the chat facility, so if you're watching, you want to say hi, be it on LinkedIn or on Facebook, you can just chat with us in the chat box. Let us know where you're watching from. And of course, you can get your questions to us whilst we're live here today. And also, if you're watching post live, which often happens, you can also still get in touch with us. We love to hear from you. We love to have your questions, and we like to get those into our in-house experts at AdRoll and NextRoll. So thank you so much. Coming up today, in the next kind of half hour, 45 minutes, we're talking with Kelsey, who is from Doughp, the founder of Doughp. So excited to have her join us here today on the chat. We've got a whole host of things we're going to chat about, from starting the company, from featuring on Shark Tank and being also one of Forbes 30 under 30. Super excited for that. We're also going to have, because we have a baker in-house, we figured we'd do like an AdRoll bake-off, basically, where we'd ask people from the team to submit their baked creations, because if you're anything like me, whilst you've been here in quarantine, baking has been a prime entertainment activity. Finding flour is pretty impossible, actually. But anyway, I'm just going to give you a little sneak preview of something that we've had come in, for example. So this is what we're talking about. If you're not hungry now, you're going to be hungry by the end of this conversation here today. But we have a little AdRoll bake-off, and as we have a pro judge with us, Kelsey can help us pick perhaps a winner of our bake-off here today. First, before we do get into our conversation, I wanted to promote an ebook that we have, which is the best video practices, secrets to ideation, production, and distribution. So we actually do have a webinar coming about this next week, which I'm going to share more information on. However, the ebook's great. You can download it, basically go through all of that, and it's very much a step-by-step guide. As you can see there, over 80% of marketers say that the videos help them increase web traffic, generate leads, and increase dwell time across web pages. It also, of course, provides a value by being kind of, authentic, bringing some authenticity to audience interactions. And if you're not familiar with how to go about creating video content and how to distribute that, then this is where this ebook is really going to help you out. So I will add that to the chat box a little bit later on through this conversation so that you can download that ebook. And I'll bring more information next week on the webinar that we have taking place with some experts who are going to give some prime advice. All right, so let's get into our conversation today and welcome our guest. So Kelsey is the founder of Doughp, which is raw and bakeable cookie dough that's vegan friendly, and it's delicious. I can testify. I tasted it. I'm here in San Francisco, and it's exactly where the company started. So it's so yum. But before we do chat, I wanted to show a clip because Kelsey did feature on Shark Tank back in 2019, I think it was. So we have a clip here to give you some visuals on that dough and some back history for the company.
Next up is a business that indulges in a guilty pleasure.
What's up, Sharks? I'm Kelsey, founder and fearless leader at Doughp Cookie Dough. I'm seeking $450,000 in exchange for 10% of my company. I'm Dallas-born, California raised, and I'm loving life in the Bay Area, running San Francisco's first ever cookie dough bar. Life is crazy, and adulting is hard. But what if, just for a few moments, you could be transported back to your childhood, sneaking bites of cookie dough in the kitchen? At Doughp, we serve nostalgia by the scoop. We're here for the big kid inside of all of us. However, we're anything but childish. We're a millennial brand serving over 20,000 customers each month. I'm on a mission to get Doughp in every city in America through opening additional high-traffic storefronts, franchising, and expanding onto grocery store shelves. Sharks, this deal is too dope to pass up. Who's in?
We get samples?
Awesome. There we go. A little snippet there of Kelsey on Shark Tank. And what an introduction to bring Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing good. It's so funny to watch that back. Truth be told, have only watched the full episode the day that it aired. I've never gone back and watched it again. Always a bit funny to see yourself on TV.
I can imagine. And then also, I think just like in terms of the nerves moment, I'm sure that was like an incredibly intense experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like audition, right? It's like stand up and perform now.
It's like nothing I've ever done before. And in my past life working in tech, I actually spoke at a keynote of like 4,000 people. And I remember thinking like, I'll be fine. Like, this is just like, it's just a few people in chairs. Like, it's nothing. But you're like the mental space of knowing that it's going to be shown to millions and millions of people. And it never really goes away. Like, it's aired and it continues to rerun. And people are feeling like they're seeing it for the first time, even now. So it's pretty surreal. And I stood there before those doors open, was like, this is it. I'm peeing my pants. And like, that's just going to happen. I was like mentally getting myself ready. Like, it's going to be on TV with it dripping down my legs. What am I going to do? But I didn't do it. I was fine. And yeah, the doors open. I'm like, I've prepared for this my whole life. Let's just do it.
Well, also, I mean, you did do well out of the situation in terms of you didn't come away with investment for various reasons, but in terms of just representing yourself and the company, it was a really positive experience. And I'm sure it's brought people to you since then, right?
Totally. In some ways, going on Shark Tank and not getting a deal is quite helpful if you presented yourself well. And, I knew my numbers front and back. I was very strong on the business purpose. And like you said, it came across well. And there are reasons of being out around it not being healthy for people or not being good. There was a large audience who was like, I don't care. Dessert's awesome. It's not going away. So both in terms of fans and also a number of investors that reached out after we aired looking to get a piece of it.
Awesome. That's so good to hear. Well, let's talk a little bit about you and a little bit about how Doughp started. So kind of how did everything get started for you?
Yeah, it's still kind of surreal to say I run a cookie dough company for a living. But if you take it way back, so I spent 10 years working in tech. I started at Intel when I was just 16 years old. And through that sort of like immediacy into corporate life and the fast-paced environment I was thrown into, I developed an unhealthy relationship with alcohol as a means to kind of cope with the stress that I was enduring, and never really was able to come to terms with it until 2015 when finally said enough was enough and had the one final hurrah and said I will just never have a drink of alcohol again. And now I'll be 5 years sober this September. So pretty cool to see what can happen in a relatively short amount of time. Just the last 5 years, a lot has changed. So 2 years after getting sober, I was heavy back into what makes Kelsey, really following whatever I love to do and getting back to, what were my passions? What did I like outside of working or drinking? I got to find a lot of new things that I loved. And one thing in particular from my childhood was baking a lot. And I started baking all the time, nights and weekends outside of Intel. I was baking truffles and cupcakes and all this stuff, just loving it. Started a small bakery while I was in Oregon, actually, where I first got sober. And then when I was moved for a new job inside of Intel to San Francisco, it was sort of like, the woes start to get to you like, oh, I'll never make it. I'm not a professional baker. I can't do that. So I kind of put it to the side. And once the entrepreneurial bug has bit someone who's meant to be an entrepreneur, I don't know that you can stop the train. It's moving. So it wasn't very long before I really came up with what my next idea would be. And having been newly vegan at the time while I was in San Francisco, I was baking as a relatively terrible vegan using butter but leaving the eggs out. So this trick I'd learned to make an egg substitute was working quite well. And I had cookie dough that was now really decadent, but I could bake half of it or eat half of it raw. And there's some on the screen for you. So we make legit cookie dough. You can eat it raw or bake it. And I loved that balance because the best part about cookie dough is sneaking a few bites and having the fresh baked gooiness out of the oven. And the best thing about Doughp is you can like half bake it safely and enjoy it with some ice cream. So you don't have any concerns over pulling it out a little gooey and scraping it over the ice cream. And I'll stop before everyone starts drooling, but that's sort of how I got here.
Awesome. So you mentioned, in a previous life you were working in tech product marketing. How has that helped you to start the business? How did that really kind of like set you on a path to launching your own company?
Yeah, I have zero regrets over my time in tech and what I did and what I was able to learn while working there. I think the best thing that I took away from it was watching really incredible mentors and managers make business decisions, which at the end of the day, whether we're talking about processor chips or chocolate chips and decisions with cookie dough, those things were really applicable for me. So I think just strategic business decision making made a lot of difference. I found a lot of the success with Doughp on the marketing side has just been from me also being a super consumer. I have always loved and paid attention to what it was that drew me to different brands that I liked. What did they do talking on social media? How was the voice? How did that speak to me? the authenticity of some brands really reached out, and I wanted to create something that embodied that. So it was funny because back at Intel product marketing days, they were always editing my copy saying like, less exclamation points, you sound too excited. It's too much excitement. You got to tone it down. And then finally, when you go and build your own brand, it's like, exclamation point. I just went crazy. I was like, I just want it to be fun. I just want people to have a good time, whether they're reading about Doughp, telling someone else about Doughp, eating Doughp, whatever it is. I just want you to feel good. So that comes across in the marketing.
Totally. I was going to say that your brand identity, you can really feel your personal voice and everything, be it through, the website or also, all of the social media. You can, and obviously like Doughp is such a great pun to have anyway. It fits into so many amazing kind of like, connections and things like that.
It's but endless puns.
Yeah. How did the name come about?
I was sitting with a friend in San Francisco, actually having some mocktails at a bar, and we like wrote on a napkin. We're trying to come up with all these like dough puns, and thinking of like really embarrassing stuff. I won't even bother you bringing it up, but like things that just, it was like, it's so cheesy. This is just not it. And I said to her, like, I just want to make a really dope dessert shop. I want somewhere that you and I would want to hang out at. Dessert shop. Back then, my mind was very focused on just the physical brick and mortar versus what we'll talk about, I'm sure, with the e-commerce side of things. But that was it. It was like a dope dessert shop, and she went, Doughp could have dough in it. We have to do it. And it was set from there. I think it's really suiting, and it's worked well. We naturally get some people who are like, all right, so how much THC is in it? I've never had edibles before. And we're like, no. Like there's no THC. It's just dope, like cool. It's not dope like anything else. So we've had a few interesting conversations online about that.
It'll definitely be a new branch anyway. It's certainly like a trend at the moment. There's a huge amount of companies that come in help with CBD and stuff. So
we'll like license out a partition of the brand. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you started with brick and mortar, and you started here in San Francisco. So what's how is that kind of like? Can you talk us through just your setup process, and then where you're at now and how things have developed?
Yeah, so I mean, day one, if you go way back, Dolores Park, very popular park in San Francisco, and it was 4/20/2017, first day of my sabbatical with Intel. So I was going to get a 10-week vacation for my 10 years of service there. And so day one of it happened to be 4/20, which I know the puns we just talked about, but that audience also gets very hungry. So I thought it was a great place to try selling Doughp, and that was with just a cart. I had literally for like $500, there was a tech shop, like a wood shop in Soma, and built this rolling cart that I could disassemble and very accurately pack into a Prius, so if I called an Uber or a Lyft, I knew exactly how to get this whole cart and tent and everything set in there. And for the first 6 months or so, the majority of Doughp's life was catering, pop-ups, and doing Spark Social. Shout out to Carlos at Spark Social for giving me a shot when I was so young. I don't even think I had the cart yet. I wrote Spark Social, this food park in San Francisco, and was like, hello, I have this cookie dough company I'd love to sell. And they're like, within 2 hours, like, cookie dough's awesome. When can you start? I'm like, okay, so business license, okay, I've got to get a permit. It's like, what do I need to do to make this happen? And lots of just like proving out that people really did like this concept before jumping into brick and mortar, which is something I constantly advising people who are like, oh, I want to open a restaurant tomorrow. I'm just going to do it. It's like, before you invest, make sure people love your idea or love your recipes. And then my concept with the brick and mortar decision-making was really to try and get the Doughp name in front of as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, and have that real in-person connection. Looking at going into a Safeway off the bat or getting into Costco off the bat or something. Us just being a little jar or container on a shelf wasn't going to speak as much about who we are, my story, what we care about, our donations to mental health and addiction recovery. Those elements are really hard to come across when you're just on a shelf. So the storefronts became more of an immersive opportunity. Our storefront on the Las Vegas Strip, we have raw truth cards on the table. So these prompting questions you can answer with family and friends. We have a donation box, so they were getting to vote for which nonprofit they'd like to receive the funds. We've since updated where 1% of all of our sales are donated to a community counseling center, providing affordable mental health care and substance abuse treatment. So those storefronts, like I said, really gave that immersive experience, and now has helped us significantly when we made the decision to focus on e-commerce quite heavily in November of last year. Great timing, oddly and sadly, given what happened with the pandemic, to have turned our sights on e-commerce and shut off some of the work we were doing with catering and wholesale at a larger scale to really try and get e-commerce right, getting onto Shopify platform and really starting for the first time in advertising. I used to joke that like for the first 2 years, our ad budget was zero. We didn't run any ads. It was very much so just word of mouth and the placement of our store or product.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously e-commerce, like perfect timing really with last year to get set up so that when things really kicked off at the start of this year, you were like, I guess like on your way, you know, you weren't kind of rushing to get things implemented. But what's that e-commerce process been like for you? Like, did you instantly find like it was just, really helped pick business up? And how's that kind of distribution process been for you?
Yeah, pretty significant. I mean, it's an interesting world to learn about paid advertising because I sort of thought like, well, okay, if you have say like $50,000 budget and you could just put it out and you'll get this amount back and it's perfect science, right? And that's just what's going to happen. It's not quite like that. It's like this slow grow. So it was very rapid in terms of what's happened over the last 6 months in total. But off the start, you know, it was still seemed smaller scale and seemed like it wasn't going to be big enough, but enough focus on you know, really getting the right paid advertising team behind you that gets your brand, knows how to talk about it, getting really good creative. We've hit some walls and some learnings with like what creative would have been more helpful from the start. It's kind of a learn as you go thing in some sense, but you know, knowing that video content does perform so much better on social platforms for paid media, we were lacking in that area. I think we ran the Shark Tank clip to death, so I'm sorry if anyone got like hounded with that. That wasn't my call, but yeah, it's been a learning process on that end. Getting onto Shopify was a game changer. I'm not like paid or sponsored by them at all, but having our website platform on there is next level as far as trying to run an online business. We were formerly on Weebly, now owned by Square, and I think there's a lot of changes and a lot of things that they're looking to roll out and or have rolled out recently. But I was on a older generation version of Weebly and had built the site myself back in 2017. So all in all, it was just time for an upgrade. So the website upgrade, got the paid advertising, got a creative team on board to really try and figure out what Doughp looks like in photos, how we want that to come across. And yeah, it can only go up from here.
And you mentioned just, you know, a moment ago, of course, like you're highly, because of your personal story, because of the struggle with alcoholism, obviously mental health is a huge element of something that you support as a company, and you do give away portions of profit and things like that. So could you tell us a little bit just about how you've, you know, integrated supporting and building a community and a conversation around mental health with the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2017, we were opening a kiosk on Market Street. For anyone who remembers the Myriad, it was like kind of that mid-market area, and there was a market hall inside. And our opening day was on my 2-year sobriety anniversary. So we said, if you show up and say it's dope to be sober at checkout, you'll get 20% off. And the response that we got from that was pretty overwhelming, and messages of people saying their own personal journeys. You know, I'm 2 weeks sober. Do you know of any good meetings in the city? Or talking about being many years sober and not having, you know, the courage to come out and speak about it much. And it just became really evident that there are a lot of people going through what I went through at all sorts of stages in their life. And we share this common thread of feeling like we did something wrong, like we should feel sort of ashamed for what we've been through, and it needs to be a bit shrouded. You don't want to talk about it. Your parents probably don't want to talk about it. Your friends, you know, if they know what's going on, they're kind of ashamed to talk about it for you. And I just felt like, to heck with that, you know, we need to open things up and let people feel more comfortable to talk about what's really going on. So I formed the Doughp for Hope initiative. And at Doughp, that has a couple of different things. One for the community, like you see here, is the pledge that you can sign on our website. So if you go to Doughp's website, on the Meet Us page, there's a button to sign the pledge. It says that you'll speak up, you know, when you need help, and you'll be there for a friend when they need you. Just pledging to keep it raw, keep it real. And that's really what Doughp tries to do in all of our language and communication that we do on social media as well. So yeah, great example on cue there. That's one of our Mental Health Monday posts. So we're always trying to put up content that just can lift people up and remind them that it's all right to not be okay all the time. And things like this, you know, it's okay to ask for help. Don't be ashamed of what you're going through. So That's one component of it. We also have the donation element. So we donate 1% of all of our sales company-wide. That's online, in-store, wherever you buy Doughp, 1% of the money that you give to our company will be going to community counseling centers. So it helps to provide affordable mental health care and substance abuse treatment. And they're here in Southern Nevada, which is really awesome. So nice to be helping out the community that's now been such a big part of Doughp's life. For our staff, we have mental health days. Highly encourage this if any employers are listening. The opportunity to let your staff come to you and say, I'm having an anxiety attack, I need the day. And you cover it no matter what, no financial penalty. You just figure it out and make it happen. It can create a really nice bond and a really nice sense of trust and respect with you and your employees. So mental health days have been a part of Doughp since we started Doughp for Hope. And gives people a way to just let us know they're not doing all right instead of coughing and pretending to be sick and trying to get out of the day. So a few things that we try to do and hope that we can inspire some other people to do the same.
And you also have a podcast as well, that you some audio episodes that go out to also engage in conversation. Has that kind of brought more people to your community and kind of like helped to encourage conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. And the podcast is just so freaking fun. It's like, it's a great opportunity to just have good conversations with good people making a difference in the world. So it's been really nice. It's interesting being a founder that's so closely connected with the brand. Because there is sort of this like personal brand element where I was like, hey, I want to talk about what's going on in the world, but it is so nicely tied with what Doughp cares about too. Because I talk to people who have overcome any type of adversity in their life and what they've gone on to go and do something great with it. So it's really nice that it kind of helps on both ends. They're really well connected. Soberpreneur, check it out. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud.
You can take a look. You can find it on SoundCloud and Spotify. So you can see there. So do have a listen.
Yeah, Soberpreneur.
How are the main ways that you speak with your customers then? Like, what are the main ways you engage them? Do you do a lot of like subscription emails? Is a lot of it through social and through these other activities that you're doing?
Yeah, so we have a newsletter. That's awesome. And we've just joined forces with an agency called Noticed and going to be working on some new content there. But yeah, lots of very personal stuff from me too. I often just like write update emails to the newsletter list about how things are going at Doughp. We've had a lot of operations updates to pass along recently. So if any followers are watching along, they know what we're talking about. And it's just nice to keep them in the loop with what's going on. We're also really engaged on social. That's been huge for me since the start. Only like within the last 6 to 8 months did I stop responding to everything myself alone. I still respond to a lot, but we have a team that is on it. So we're really trying to be as responsive and as authentic as we can. So we face the tough questions or comments, and we try to be as available as possible. For example, with Black Lives Matter and what's been happening for centuries in our country, but over the last few weeks coming to such light, we've taken a stance on it. And through social media, being able to communicate with customers on why we support Black Lives Matter and what we're doing to make an impact now and into the future.
Awesome. And I have to say, of course, like I mentioned a little bit in your introduction, that you were one of Forbes 30 under 30. So congratulations. This is for 2020. So when did this come around? Like, when did you hear about this? Were you expecting it? Like, was it out of the blue?
Yeah. So it was for a couple of years, 2 years, I knew that Forbes was looking at me as potentially being the 30 under 30, asking for more information and trying to get some financial info, details about what the company was up to and whatnot. But it was in December of last year that I got the email that says, you've been selected, like, congratulations, you're a 30 under 30. I was actually at the gym with my husband. We were like about to walk up the stairs and I was just checking my email and started crying. It was just really surreal to see. It's a mega goal for sure. And thank goodness it happened now because I'm 29. So the clock is ticking. I'm like, I got the less than a year to make this in. Let's do it. So last shot. And it was, a very cool thing. And went out to New York City for their launch party for it and whatnot. But yeah, pretty neat. And then you're sort of in this group with some amazing people who have come before you. It's really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's got real, kind of a real accomplishment. And I guess for yourself, like you're still only, things are continuing. It's not like the end of the journey, right? It's like it's only kind of like growing and onward from here. So I mean, if you could go back and give yourself some advice, say, when you started, what would be like your kind of key advice to yourself?
Oh man, gosh. Yeah. I mean, knowing what I know now about e-commerce, I probably would have said, start selling online sooner. Cause that was always, we sold online. Like there's probably some people that we have in our network still who bought from us when it was like early days. We used to send like 1 package a week because it was just on the website, but we never really talked about it much. So I'd probably say focus on that, but also just like enjoy the little milestones, like you said, it's like, oh, it's kind of like you've made it, but the journey's not over. And it's so hard to feel like you ever really did make it. Like, what does making it mean? Like it's never enough for an entrepreneur, there's always the next step and the next goal. So I think I would just look back and say like, enjoy the ride a little bit more, but it was so tough. I think about it now and I'm like, my gosh, early days, like when it was just me, I'm the only employee. I had like a week where there were 7 days with an event every day straight. And I was working with like a friend volunteer army, so like someone doesn't show up, you're working an 800-person event alone. It was just so tough. But I think like, gosh, if I went back, would I do it all over again? But you just do it when you have that drive in the beginning and you are where you are. And each stage changes with what's difficult. Yeah.
Well, it definitely does sound courageous. I know on your website, it just kind of say, our courageous leaders for the company. And I think, it takes a lot of courage to do things that are unknown and to take those chances and to take that time, all that energy and dedication for something that you're just trying to figure out as you go to a certain degree. So, kudos to you for doing that and just kind of like get through it and fighting any fear you might have.
Yeah, it's like a great focusing of my energy. I think when I talk to other recovering alcoholics as well, like this excess energy, which was like being directed towards alcohol before, is kind of like freed up. And I think it's a pretty shared personality trait for a lot of people in that boat who are just like, there's just a lot, like a very intense personalities and need something to focus it towards. And for me, starting a company was just awesome. You want to like throw your full self into something. And I've been given that, now for 3 years.
Awesome. Well, we do have a small judging task for you, as you may have heard earlier.
I saw it. It's great. I can't wait.
I really wanted to get the theme tune for the British Bake Off, but then I figured that might get us bumped off Facebook and LinkedIn. Right.
Yeah.
We did ask the team if they would like share some of the pictures of the baking that they've been doing at home. So, I mean, of course, we promote all kinds of baking. It's just good fun for the family. But maybe we can try and find a winner out of the bunch. Or what would be your choice?
I love it. Look for creativity, uniqueness in recipe. I like people that think outside the box. We did a cookie dough recipe contest once, and someone made cookie dough sushi. So I'm just saying the bar was set really high. Unique ingredients maybe, and overall aesthetic. Let's see how it comes together.
All right, let's take a look. So first of all, we have Victoria had given us her matcha cookie. So I do have some notes, if I can pull those up in time. Let me have a look. There we go. Matcha white chocolate chip cookies, chewy with a little caffeine kick for an afternoon pick-me-up. And she said, I used the recipe, but I added less sugar with matcha and made bigger cookies. So there was 18 in her batch. So
I love it. We had a flavor called Matcha Dude. It was a matcha snickerdoodle cookie dough back in the day. The green was slightly off-putting to a certain audience, but the people who love matcha got it.
That's it, right? Like green food is always a bit like, a bit hit and miss. Matcha is, I love like matcha ice cream and all of that. I'm here. All right, next up is Rob, who had made a lemon and poppy seed bundt cake.
Rob, I'm a sucker for lemon.
Yeah, and poppy seed. I wish there was a slice so you could see if it was like, I know people hate this word, but moist. Like to see what's going on the inside of that cake. From the outside, it looks delicious.
Yes, tough to tell the moist level for sure. But that's what the icing's for in a bundt cake, so that can help. Lemon poppy seed solid. What's the cake flavor? Just a vanilla cake?
Yes, seems to be. Or lemon. Yeah, I guess like vanilla lemon. Oh no, but the lemon would be in the
lemon poppy seed icing, maybe. He's also got a butler that's really down in a bottle there in the right-hand corner. I don't know if anyone saw that.
In the background.
That's a little extra.
So there we go. There's Rob. Let's have a look what we got next. So Chris, who is our VP of Customer Success, he's been baking. So this is his first attempt at French baguettes from scratch. And he says, success, exclamation point. And so they definitely look like baguettes to me. And then he did say they went on to make a cheese version, which look slightly more knobbly. Compared to
That's awesome nonetheless. Like, kudos to anybody who makes bread. It's not easy, and I've never done it myself. So I love that. And that French baguette, I mean, man, I'd make some mean French toast with those. So that's awesome.
Yeah, look at that. Delicious. Definitely looking good there. Right, let's have a look. We're going back to some cookies now. We have Beth. No, sorry, hang on. This is actually Muffins, but we've got Beth.
Okay.
And so these are her two boys who are helping her make these cookies. Cookies.
So nice.
Cookies, muffins.
It's okay. Muffins are just extra large cookies, fluffier cookies.
She says here, one of my sons is really into unicorns right now, so we made some unicorn muffins. They were like blueberry muffins with confetti sugar on top. So that's what you can see with the sprinkles going on there.
Breakfast item plus the rainbow sprinkles. You know, that's what I'm all about. I'm like, how can I turn breakfast into dessert every day?
Delicious. They look good. Right, last two we've got coming up here. We've got Jay-Z has been baking some cookies. So these are banana bread cookies, which I think is very much the bake of quarantine has been banana bread. But she said these look so good on a recipe that a friend had shared that she made her own batch.
Yum.
They look good. And then the last one here is actually from our CEO, who I didn't ask permission to show this picture, but he made a sourdough, which I think, having heard some experiences of people making sourdoughs in recent weeks, that like there's pretty high failure rate with sourdough. It's a pretty tough bread to bake. So this looks pretty good. I don't know if the bottom's soggy or if it's a mess on the bottom, but it looks good.
That's awesome. Does anyone get like injured or hurt promotion-wise if we don't pick the CEO's bread?
No, I think he'd be okay to not win this one. In fact, I did wonder about putting it in case there was like a biased result, but there we go. Awesome. So
I love it. Incredible work. Honorable mention to the matcha cookies, the matcha, white chocolate cookies, because that is throwback for 2017 Doughp flavor that we used to have. So I love that. The banana bread is going to win an award for best flavor. The banana bread chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, that's bomb. I love banana and cookies. It's a great way to make a vegan cookie too, using bananas instead of the butter. So solid choice there. And then I think for aesthetics, I know I'm giving out a lot of awards, but you know, it's 2020, everyone gets a participation medal. It's awesome. Great job to everyone. But on the aesthetic side, I think the bundt cake is going to win for me with the nice glaze and the hilarious butler that made it into the photo.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you to everybody who participated. Of course, like you said, just getting through 2020, we all get awards just for surviving.
Everyone deserves an award this year. Yes.
Pat on the back to everyone.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We had a few comments just come in. Lindsay said it's such an inspiration, and Gavin had said, I love the concept of the super consumer you mentioned at the start, and just also asked, what are your top tips for putting yourself in your customers' shoes?
You know, that's a great idea. I guess creating a product that you love is like the first step there. I've always found that marketing for Doughp was really easy because not only do I love the product and still eat it today, I have a pint in my fridge right now, but I made a brand that markets to me. I am part of our target audience. So in that sense, it really can help. I understand if you're, working for different companies and whatnot, that you didn't create, trying to put yourself in your customer's shoes is super important. I recommend just getting deep into customer feedback and doing some interviews or surveys. Like we did some surveys recently on a new package design we're working on. And while, like I said, I am part of our audience, I'm living and breathing this every day. So getting outside perspective, I think it was like $300 or something to do a 500-person survey, getting a bunch of, random participants in our demographic, and really helpful stuff where I was like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. Or I didn't look at it and think that. So when you're really having to make big decisions, it can help to just truly go out and facilitate some customer feedback. read up on what they care about, what they're worried about, what their spending habits are like lately. Try and just be in the know with resources and things that they would be reading. So you're kind of absorbing the same info, and you can know what they're looking for and better market your product.
Awesome. That's some great advice. Well, thank you so much for joining again today. And I want to, make sure that everybody knows they should go and check out the website. I'll just bring up that slide again, but it's Doughp.
Nice.
.com is correct, right? That's right.
Doughp. Yep. Doughp.com. DOUGHP.com. We made it really difficult on people. It's like Dough HP, Doughp, Doug HP, Dopey. We've gotten a lot of variations of how you pronounce Doughp, but DOUGHP.com.
Perfect. And we'll also add the links, some places where people can get in touch and they can see you obviously on social. And don't forget to check out as well, of course, the podcast that you do and keep up to date with everything on your social.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was great to be here, and check out our website. We ship nationwide. It's awesome and fun and delicious, and there won't be anyone in your household that's mad about cookie dough showing up. So of all the online shopping anyone does during quarantine, I think Doughp's getting the most passes.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. If it tastes good, feels good, go for it.
Yeah. Awesome. Treat yourself. All right. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. There we go. Kelsey from Doughp there. Like I said, I'll share more information online for you on the chat so that you can find out where to find more information and get your hands on some of that delicious product. Coming up next week, I believe we're talking with Pegasus Travel. And we feel like travel is actually going to be a really interesting conversation, especially considering at the moment travel is very limited for a lot of us around the world. So we're going to be hearing a little bit more about the travel industry and some of the ways in which they're combating the issues that they're experiencing. But we'll be keeping you up to date with that and posting more information online. We'll also be taking a look at the webinar that we have coming up next week, which is going to be covering video best practices, secrets to ideation, production, and distribution. If you want to get in touch with us at all here at AdRoll, of course, we love to hear from you. You can follow us on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We're also on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're in all those places, basically. So you can reach out to us at any of those spots, be it if you want to feature on something like this, like a live stream. And I also will have some news of a new upcoming podcast that we are releasing in the very near future. Date TBC, but we're going to have a whole load of content for you to check out and to listen to, whether it's when you're working out or whether you're working. We'll have more information on that to come. But thanks again to Kelsey from Doughp for joining us today. We'll see you again all next week at the same time, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time for more on AdRoll Live. Take care.